As I said in the previous video, the first one, this digital realm of wisdom, history is studying the past from written sources and unwritten sources, and that historians really like written sources. But for the biggest part of the existence of the human beings, we didn't write. So there are no written sources about this time. We have to do it with what people left behind. The buildings, their remains, small statues, big statues, weapons, pottery, everything they left behind, archaeological finds. This is what we call the prehistory or the prehistoric period, which is actually the longest period of the whole existence of time. If the screen would be the whole existence of human beings on Earth, in history we actually only discuss this little bit. That's the part in which we have written sources. The disadvantage is that we don't know anything for real if we don't have written sources. There's nobody saying, yes, we use this as a pen. You can read it here and here. If we find a piece of clay in the ground somewhere, or when we find hunnebedden, there's nobody who will say, there's no written source that says, we bury our deads here. We think that they buried their deads there. We do not know for sure. We do not know anything for sure. We decide, based on our archaeological finds, that people must have lived like that, and that they did things in a certain way, based on things we find, unwritten sources. Now, history, real history, so not prehistoric history, history is about written sources. And in prehistoric time we do not have written sources. So based on what we find, we divide the prehistoric times into different periods. In our first chapter we are going to look into these different periods, which are all based before zero. So we count back the years. And that starts with the first stone tools that we find 2.5 million years ago in Africa. That's where we start the prehistoric times. The first people came later in Europe, but that's where we start prehistoric times. And in the next video we're going to talk about how these people lived, these first human beings, this first Homo sapiens sapiens.